لله بسم الله الحمد لله الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء سيد الأتقياء إمام الأصفياء نبي محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. قال الله تعالى وأنتم أعلمون إن كنتم مؤمنين. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الدين النصيحة. صدق الله مولانا العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. The guide to mankind, the teacher to mankind, our beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said to his ummah at large in his amazing prophetic words. He says, whoever believes in Allah and the last day, whoever believes in Allah and his last day, so he's speaking to each and every single one of us sitting here today, whoever believes in Allah and the day of judgment, Nabi Allah says, فَلْيُكْرِمْ ضَيْفَهُ, then let him honor his guest. Let him show reverence to his guest. Let him respect his guest. And it's so amazing because every sentence that comes out from the blessed lips of the Prophet ﷺ are golden words. Look at how the Nabi of Allah defines a true believer here. This is what he's speaking to us and telling us. The quality of a true believer. He said the quality of a true believer, فَلْيُكْرِمْ ضَيْفَهُ, let him honor and show reverence to his guest. We know very well that when a guest comes to us, especially when it's a guest of nobility, it's a dignified guest, it's a respectable guest, then we start to make changes. Of course, we become very hospitable. We start to even change our environment in our home. We start to prepare certain dishes that the guest may like. When the guest arrives, we're not going to wear any ordinary home clothes. We're going to try to put on some decent clothes. It's not the best of our clothes. That's how we are. In fact, we may even go through some level of discomfort in order to ensure the guest is comfortable. This is within our nature, especially when it's an honorable guest. Similarly, my beloved brothers and sisters, the scholars have mentioned a beautiful point, that just around the corner very soon, the guest of Allah is approaching. SubhanAllah. The most important guest is approaching. Just around the corner, just a couple of days away, the most important guest, the guest of Allah is approaching. The question is, when this guest of Allah comes knocking on our door, when Ramadan comes knocking on our door, how will we receive it? How will we receive it? How will we entertain this special guest, this noble guest? What did Nabi of Allah say? فَلْيُكْرِمْ ضَيْفَهُ, honor the guest, respect the guest, show reverence to the guest. And we know very well what are the due rights of Ramadan upon us. Where, as one of the famous scholars of the past said, we're veterans when it comes to fasting. We know it very well. We know how to show respect. But the question is, how do we go about doing this? When this guest goes back to Allah, ask yourself, will this guest mention your name? That you treated this guest well, that you showed honor to this guest, you gave the guest its due diligence. This is what we're supposed to do, my beloved brothers and sisters. When the guest of Allah comes knocking, we don't turn it away. And we certainly don't open our doors and just leave it there. No, we develop some sort of change in our life to entertain this guest in the best of ways. Because the beauty about the month of Ramadan is so amazing that a similitude is given when it comes to the month of Ramadan. That we know very well, all of us sitting here today have heard many times the famous story of Prophet Yusuf, Nabi Yusuf and his 11 brothers. That the 11 brothers committed wrong, they tried to plot against him, they tried to even kill him, they threw him in the well. But however, due to eventually the dua of one brother, their brother, Prophet Yusuf, they were all forgiven. 11 brothers committed wrong. One dua of one brother, Prophet Yusuf, and they were all forgiven. So similarly it said, think of Ramadan like the Prophet Yusuf, and think of the 11 brothers like the 11 months of the year. We've committed so many wrongs. We've transgressed the limits. We know what the wrongs and sins and despicable things that we may have committed, whether in public or in private. So think of it, the 11 months, they're like the 11 brothers. But you see, the one brother now, the shining star is coming. The Prophet Yusuf, so to say, is coming. The Ramadan is approaching. And if you get the forgiveness in this month of Ramadan, if you treat this guest well, if you honor this guest, then all the 11 months, the rest of the year, then bi'idhnillah, in the court of Allah, you're clear. You're free to go. What an amazing bargain, what a beautiful bargain. You see, Ramadan is a time. It's not only for the righteous. Some people have that misconception. Think Ramadan is only for the pious people to enjoy. It's not, no. It's even for the sinners like us as well. We get to enjoy it. We rejoice in it. You know why? Because Ramadan is a time when the divine tawbah, the forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is at all time. Tawbah is a gift for every sinner. Remember that principle. Tawbah is a divine gift for every sinner. That no matter how much time, this is what the prophetic words, the hadith teaches us, no matter how much time the person commits a sin, he may be even addicted to that sin. He goes back over and over to commit that sin. He raises his hands and he always asks Allah for forgiveness. Allah knows he's going back to commit the sin. What does Allah say? Allah says, I have to forgive him. You know why? Because this individual, the servant of mine who raises his hands, he knows his Lord is Rabbun Ghafoor. SubhanAllah. Look at the way Allah describes himself. Rabbun Ghafoor. A Lord filled who is with vast forgiveness. A Lord who is oft forgiving. This is what we do. This is one of the ways to start our Ramadan. When was the last time we raised our hands to Allah and just said, oh Allah, I'm sorry. Allah, I'm sorry. We may not even mean it because perhaps we're indulged in the sin so much, but at least say it. Raise our hands, Allah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the sins I've committed, Ya Allah, you know I am weak. Ramadan is a time approaching, as I said, just a couple days away. It's a time where throughout the month we're supposed to be enthusiastic. We're supposed to be zealous. It's not only that we start the month on a high and then somewhere along the middle we find ourselves lost. No, it's istiqamat is important. That's one of the qualities of a believer. When Nabi Allah was highlighting those qualities, he said, ثُمَّ اسْتَقِمْ. Be steadfast. So that's what it's about in Ramadan. That we're enthusiastic, we're zealous. We yearn to achieve as much blessings as we can, as much goodness as we can. We yearn to achieve the most forgiveness that we can. And this was the salient qualities of the noble companions radiallahu ta'ala of the Sahaba. They were known for this. This is why the Nabi of Allah, he praised them so much and he referred to them as the shining stars. The famous narration said they're shining stars. Whichever one of these shining stars you follow, you'll always be guided. And when we look at the quality of the Sahaba when it came to the month of Ramadan, they were the definition of enthusiastic. They were the definition of those that secure themselves. Imagine, the very same companions that received the best certificate a person could hope of receiving, which is radiyallahu anhu. That's the best certificate, which means Allah is pleased with each and every single one of them. None of us sitting here today, we don't have that certificate, but they had that certificate. They were the promised ones of Jannah. However, the way that they toiled themselves, the way that they exerted themselves when it came to the month of Ramadan was so amazing. They were guaranteed paradise. They got the certificate already in this world. But when we look at the way, how they strived, how they made such strenuous effort, it's truly amazing. And that's why the question was asked. The famous question, what's the difference between the Sahaba and us? Someone asked. No, Sahaba, they were men, we are men. What's the difference between them and us? And the reply was given, the difference is that the same way we are rigorous in achieving our dunya, they were rigorous in achieving the akhirah. The same way that they strived, he says, look at how rigorous we are in achieving this world. They were even more rigorous in achieving the akhirah. Their lens were always polished. Their lens were always focused towards the akhirah. Of course, we have to secure ourselves in this world, no doubt. But let's not get carried away. What's our final objective, our final destination, which is the akhirah. And Ramadan is a time to secure our home in the akhirah. Sometimes people, they live their entire life in this world, very good, of course, and they look towards good achievements. Perhaps they'll save their entire life to build a decent home. Then when their families, they'll even start to save, they'll start to put some sort of endeavor in place. But I ask the question, what endeavors have we put in place for our permanent home, the home of the Akhirah? The home that we know we are going to return to. You see, Ramadan, that's the time to secure your home. That's the time to secure your home in the blessed month of Ramadan. And people ask, what do we do in Ramadan? Well, you see, there are so many formulas, so many things a person can do to book their home, to reserve their home, to build their home in the Akhirah in the month of Ramadan. But the best formula I can give is the formula that we learn from the narrations, which is to do as much good as we can and stay away from as much evil as we can. So it's a formula. It's a simple formula, but it requires effort. It requires a great amount of effort. Do as much good as we can and stay away from as much evil as we can. And this is why one of the noble companions, again, the shining stars, they were asked, say, tell me, what do you think of a person that he does so much good, but coupled with that, he does a lot of evil and wrong as well? And they say, tell me about another man, he may not do as much good, but he stays away from all the evils and all the wrongs as best as he can. They said, how can you even equate them? How can you even equate them? So I'll choose the man any day, the man who he may do a decent amount of good. He may do some forms of goodness, but he stays away from as much of the muharramat, the shabbahat, the impermissible things, the wrong things, the doubtful things as much as he can. That man who does that, who stays away from all the evils and temptations and wrong, he is of a different halaba, different status. And again, this is what Ramadan is about. Securing ourselves for the Akhirah, building ourselves by building upon our goodness and staying away from as much evil as we can. Ramadan is a time when it enters. We know the famous narration that when Ramadan enters, the narration speaks about the first 10 days being days of mercy, days of rahmat. So how do we go about getting that mercy from Allah? You see, when the Nabi of Allah used to enter the Masjid, he used to say a famous dua. And it's a dua that probably we all accustomed here. Allahumma ftahli abwab rahmatik. Oh Allah, open for me the doors of your mercy. Probably the dua is even posted somewhere here. But how often do we recite it? When we enter the Masjid, Allahumma ftahli abwab rahmatik. Learn that dua and recite it often in Ramadan. Oh Allah, open for me the doors of your mercy. And the scholars have elucidated an amazing point. They say, look at the words of the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He says, oh Allah, open for me the doors of your mercy. In other words, Nabi Allah saying, oh Allah, please open the doors of your mercy. But we have to make an effort to walk through those doors now. SubhanAllah. The Nabi of Allah in this dua, in this specific dua, never asked Allah for direct mercy because He's teaching us a lesson. Oh Allah, open the doors of mercy. Now let me walk through it. Now we as individuals, we have to strive. And we have to make an effort to walk through it. Ramadan is a time, my beloved brothers and sisters, the doors, the mercies of Allah are open like never before. It's open like never before. And you just have to walk through it, that's all. It's such a powerful month. And that's why in the famous narration of the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he spoke about a man. Two brothers, and one of them went out to defend the name of Islam and he died as a martyr. We know there is no reward like when it comes to reward of a martyr. But another brother, he lived on for some more years. However, the one who lived on for more years, he entered Jannah before. A person saw him in a dream, entering paradise before. So the person was so confused, oh Nabi Allah, I'm confused. How did this man enter paradise before the martyr? Look at the reply of the Nabi of Allah. He says, didn't he get an extra Ramadan? Didn't he achieve an extra Ramadan than the man who died before? It shows the powerful nature, the amazing, the blessed nature of the month of Ramadan. But we have to capitalize. That's the quality of believers, my beloved brothers and sisters. We don't remain stagnant. Believers are never stagnant. Believers, they capitalize on every good opportunity that presents itself. Believers invest. That's what believers do, yes? Believers invest for their after and for their hereafter. So as I said, the doors are open. Nabi Allah already dua, Allah, open the doors of your mercy for me. So now we have to walk through it. How do we walk through the doors of mercy? And I'm mentioning mercy specifically because when Ramadan begins, that's what the narrations highlight. The first 10 days are days of mercy. If you can capture these days of mercy throughout the entire month, then you're safe. You'll always be attaining Allah's mercy as you go along. So how do we do it? There's a famous hadith. And it's so famous that this hadith in every seminary, in every religious seminary, when you begin your studies in the field of hadith, this is the first hadith that you learn. And this hadith was transmitted from since the time of the Tabi'un, that it was the first hadith that they heard. And in fact, that one of the companions said, Abdullah said, it's the first hadith that I heard from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What's this amazing hadith that teaches us how to encapsulate the mercy of Allah? This hadith is Ar-Rahimun. Ar-Rahimuna yarhamuhum ar-Rahman. The hadith begins by saying that Ar-Rahimun yarhamuhum ar-Rahman, that those who are merciful, yarhamuhum ar-Rahman, the most merciful should mercy to them. SubhanAllah. Those who are if you want the mercy of the most merciful, the hadith says, begin by having mercy yourself. Begin by having mercy yourself. The hadith continues, Ar-Rahimuna yarhamuhum ar-Rahman, tabarakta wa ta'ala, irhamu man fil ard, yarhamukum man fis sama. The Nabi of Allah lays it out here beautifully. He says, show mercy to those on the face of the earth, and the inhabitants of the heavens will show mercy to you. Amazing hadith. Show mercy to those on the face of the earth, and the inhabitants of the heavens, they will begin to show mercy to you. The angels will begin to make dua for you. They'll begin to pray for your forgiveness. They will beg Allah to forgive you. Your name will be famous in the court of Allah. Sometimes we desire fame and name in this world, but this world is temporary, it's nothing. You want fame and name, desire it in the akhirah. True fame and name is in the court of Allah. So what does hadith teaches us? Show mercy to those people on the face of the earth, and the ones in the heavens will show mercy to you and make dua for your forgiveness. How do we begin by doing this? We first start with our family. Show mercy to them. I don't have to spell out how to be merciful to others, how to be lenient to others, how to show a kind face to others, how to speak to others with kindness. Again, we know how to show mercy to others. We know very well. Just time to start acting upon it. So the hadith teaches us, show mercy to those on the face of the earth. Start with your family. Then extend, of course, to your colleagues and your friends, the people in your masjid and your wider community. But it starts with our Muslim brothers and sisters. If we can't show mercy to those on the face of the earth, how do we expect the most merciful to show mercy to us? And that's how we begin the blessed month of Ramadan. That's how we begin. As I said, by showing mercy and as much good as we can, and staying away from as much evil as we can. That's why I mentioned this hadith, this other hadith to us, where the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, again in amazing prophetic words, he says, whoever does not leave out evil words and deeds whilst he is fasting. Look at the words the Nabi of Allah says here. He chooses by beginning with evil words because he knows that mankind is slipped very often by the tongue. Sometimes we build castles of good deeds and we have mountains of good deeds, but we spoke ill against a brother, we backbite a sister, we curse, we slander, we humiliate someone to their face, behind their back. We have mountains of good deeds, but they crumble. Why do they crumble? Because of this tongue. They crumble because of this tongue. And that's why the pious predecessors, like the greatest Imam of this Ummah, Al-Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi, used to have engraved on his ring. He used to have engraved on his ring. He says, Jurmuhu sagir wa jurmuhu kabir. He says, the tongue is something very light, but the sin it accumulates are very heavy. The tongue is something very light, but the sins it accumulates are very heavy. That's why Nabi of Allah says, whoever does not leave out evil words and evil deeds whilst he is fasting, he says, Allah has no need for him to leave out this food and drink. Because you're missing the bigger picture, what fasting is about. It's about self-restraint, about purification, it's about purifying your nafs and restraining your nafs. So Nabi of Allah says, if you can't leave out your evil words and deeds during fasting, he says, what need does Allah have for you to leave out your food and your drink? And finally, my beloved brothers and sisters, I'll remind all of us of this amazing principle. And this is a maxim for us to hold on to. I'll end with this. For us to take throughout the month of Ramadan. And this principle is something that deserves to be written in gold. And it goes by this طرق الوصول إلى الله بعدد أنفاس الخلائق. You know, people often ask, how do I reach Allah? We have to understand, the final destination is Allah. We want to reach Allah, meaning we want to achieve the pleasure of Allah. We want to achieve the love of Allah. Every single one of us sitting here today, that's what we want. We want to achieve the love, the special love, and the special rida, the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this month teaches us how to do that, how to reach Allah. And it says that Turuqul Wusul ila Allah. You want to know how to reach Allah? It says the pathways to Allah are so many. Turuqul Wusul ila Allah bi'adadi anfas al-khalaiq. The pathways to Allah are so many, it's as much as the breaths of creation. The pathways to Allah are so many and so diverse, it's as much as the breath, the breathing of the creation. Not just human, the entire creation. What does this mean? It shows us that in this blessed month of Ramadan, some people, when they want to reach Allah and the pleasure for Ramadan of Allah, they'll traverse the pathways of fasting and extra salah. They'll perform extra tahajjud salat night. Some people will take the pathway of doing extra charity. Some people will take the pathway of feeding others. Some people will take the pathway of assisting others. Some people, again, I don't need to spell it out because we know the diverse pathways of goodness there are. And that's what this teaches us. The pathways to Allah, so many. Perhaps you'll be in a pathway and I'll be on a different pathway. But remember, we'll probably be in our different pathways, but the destination is all the same. The destination is all the same. You're on different pathways of goodness. He's in a different pathway of goodness. The destination is all the same. But what does this Masjid teaches us? There are so many different pathways of goodness to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just make sure when this Ramadan comes, you find yourself in one of them. Just make sure when this Ramadan comes, the different pathways there are, make sure at least minimal you find yourself in at least one of the pathways traversing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But again, there are diverse pathways of goodness bi'adadi anfas al-khalaiq, as much as the breaths and the breathing of creation. So again, my beloved brothers and sisters, I leave you with this and remind myself first and foremost that traverse the pathway to Allah in this blessed month of Ramadan. Secure your akhirah in this month of Ramadan. And again, let it be that in this month of Ramadan, your name becomes famous in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi.